In a couple of hours, the public will get their first glimpse of what's expected to become New Zealand's first ever offshore war memorial museum, but it's a long way off completion. It's based in a town called Le Quesnoy in northern France, where Kiwi soldiers pulled off the grand finale of the First World War exactly 100 years ago.
Greg, pretty amazing building. What's the history behind it?
The history behind the building is that originally it was the Mayor's residence, built in 1890. So it was actually the Mayor's residence when the soldiers came here in 1918. After the Second World War, my understanding is that then it became the Gendarmerie, the local area rural military police organisation. And it's been that way until September last year when the Trust purchased it from the French government.
So tell me, what are the actual plans for the site?
The New Zealand Memorial Museum is a museum and visitor centre here in Le Quesnoy that will cater for New Zealanders, both young and old, who come to this part of the world and want to know the story of the 70,000 New Zealanders who came to France and Belgium in 1916 and spent the next 2 years slogging it out with the Germans and ended up here in Le Quesnoy on the 4th of November 1918.
Why is it here in Le Quesnoy? Why not somewhere else in France?
We had the Somme, we had Messines, we had Passchendaele, we had Mallemont, where they stopped the advance of the Germans in March 1918. But the reason we've come to Le Quesnoy is Le Quesnoy is the one place that the New Zealanders were operating alone. It's the one place where there's this unique story of how the New Zealanders liberated the town without destroying it, without any loss of civilian life. New Zealanders are revered. The locals have never forgotten. And as you come here, there are all these street names and place names, the local school named after New Zealanders.
The outside is great, but the inside not so much. Is there a bit of work to do there?
Well, we'd have to say the inside is a work in progress. So the outside is looking really good because we've spent money to have it, shall we say, polished up before the grand opening on the 4th. But inside there's a lot of work to do. We're all only really moving into the ground floor, but there's 2 floors above that. And they haven't really been used even when the gendarmes were here. So they're in strong condition from the point of view that the fabric is there, but it needs a lot of work. And the same is true of the 9 maisonettes that were built by the gendarmes in the 1950s to house their staff. So stage 1 is that we've got the magnificent building behind me, the Mayor's House. That will be renovated, so we'll renovate all 3 floors, including and plus the attic. We'll also renovate the 9 maisonettes, the single maisonette and the 2 blocks of 4. So we'll effectively end up with a home and income. The museum will be the museum and visitor centre. It'll have a shop and a little bit of a cafeteria. There'll be interactive information there that people can look at and research and learn the story of those New Zealanders. But when they come here, there's a place to park in the centre of town on a secure 2.5 acre property, and there's accommodation.
So what happens next?
The next phase is the phase we're in at the moment, which is trying to raise money to get it to the situation we can get it operational. So that's probably about a $6 million fundraising process.
Greg, how will this project be a success?
The unique thing about this project is it is going to be a work in progress. It's a living thing because the museum will develop over time as a place for New Zealanders to come here to Le Quesnoy to live and breathe the surroundings that those soldiers were in over 100 years ago, and they'll bring their stories with them, and this will be a repository of those stories. We want younger people to come, whether it's in school groups or doing their OE. We'll want to encourage an artist in residence, a writer in residence, establish a living library here of those stories, and I think that's a magical opportunity that you won't see anywhere else.